So now let's hear from some of those amazing young people.
So, from remarkable leaders to remarkable explorers. As head of expeditions, I have the immense privilege of overseeing the delivery of all of our expeditions at British Exploring. And as it happens, about half an hour ago, not very far from where I'm stood right now, someone asked me, what is the best part of your job? There's a long list. I didn't impart the entire list because I'd probably still be there now if I had. But the one thing I identified as the favourite part of my job was being able to talk to explorers after they return from their adventures overseas about everything that it has meant to them. So I was absolutely delighted when I was asked to chair a panel to talk to our explorers. Over the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to hear from 7 such explorers who all had very different journeys overseas. All of our expeditions are different, from the Peruvian Amazon to the Himalayan mountains to the Canadian wilderness. However, there are some things that remain the same across all of our expeditions. They are made up of remarkable teams, including our volunteer leaders, who we've already heard from, our explorers, and also trainee leaders. So those are young people who are participating in a longer program of training and development in the hope of one day being able to take up the mantle of a full leader on a British exploring expedition. They're all based out of wilderness base camps, which, bluntly, when we arrive, there's very little there. Often it is a field with a river or some water access, and it is up to our teams to make a home from this completely blank canvas. And whilst they are on expedition, they are completely independent. Our teams have to carry all their own kit, all their own food. They need to plan their routes so that they can collect water to drink whilst they're on expedition. So it really is a real wilderness challenge. And to hear about the different ways that our young people engaged with that challenge this year, I'd like to invite my first four, they're looking at me and saying four explorers to the stage. Guys, if you'd like to join me. So to start us off, guys, if you would like to introduce yourselves and tell your audience which expedition you participated in.
Hello, my name's James Land and I participated in the Iceland expedition.
Hi, I'm Rob and I went to the Indian Himalayas last summer.
Hello, my name's Edward Morgan. I went to the Yukon last summer, as well as 3 other expeditions with the Society.
Hi, I'm Alex and I went on the epic Badlands expedition.
So, James, starting with you. Obviously, as I've said, our expeditions can be a bit of a challenge. Why did you choose to get involved in a British exploring expedition in the first place?
Before I started with the British Exploring, I was in Army Cadets for 6.5 years, and I did some expeditions with them, and I loved being out in the wilderness. When I left Cadets, I joined Catch-22 College, then found out about British Exploring, and as soon as I got the chance to join to do an expedition, I jumped straight for the chance, and I never regretted it since.
And what is it about expeditions you enjoy so much?
Being in the wilderness, seeing the true beauty of the earth, being where certain people haven't been, where there's no buildings, no cars, no nothing, and it is brilliant.
Sounds fabulous. And Rob, what about you? Why did you decide to take on the adventure?
Mainly ease of access. Going to a place like the Himalayas was amazing for me. If somebody had told me a year ago that I was going to go there being age 19, I would have told them, no chance. But then when I found out how British Exploring makes it so easy for a young person such as me to go to an environment like that, I just couldn't turn off the chance. It was amazing.
And you talked about the ease of accessing the expedition, but when you were there, Rob, were there some challenges?
Yeah, definitely. Altitude sickness in the Himalayas is a silent killer, really. I underestimated it quite a bit myself, so my first 2 nights there were completely sleepless, just staring at the stars for 12 hours trying to pass the time. But yeah, it hit our expedition quite hard. Yeah.
And how did your team rally around you to support you when you were feeling a bit exhausted?
Yeah, the doctors play a really, really good role on the expedition. They're really important. They help with a number of issues that arise. And they gave us good advice, always to look out to take up a buddy-buddy system, look out for the person next to you. And that helped a lot, because altitude can affect people in many different ways. And just talking and identifying symptoms really helped everyone get through it.
Great. And what about you, Alex? Did you experience any challenges on your expedition?
I personally experienced a lot of challenges. Probably most notably was the extreme heat. We went to the Spanish Badlands. It was basically a desert. There was no water anywhere. Everyone was sweating. It was really grim. My feet hurt. Yeah.
And before we move on, Alex, thank you for that candid articulation of a desert expedition. How did you meet those challenges with your team?
So we also had a buddy-buddy system, and there was a big focus on teamwork, looking out for each other, making sure that everyone was drinking enough water. We were checking each other's feet, which again was grim. I didn't want to do that. Yeah, everyone supported each other, whether that be physically, like carrying the tent for the day because you carried it yesterday, or just like shouting, "You can do this!" Yeah, we were all there for each other.
And James, returning to you, what did you learn about your expedition environment whilst you were there?
When I was in Iceland, I took part in the John Muir Award, where we learned how to look after the environment. We learned information about John Muir. We learned that when you go to a new environment, you try and keep it the same as how you found it. So if you see any rubbish, if you have rubbish, you pick it up off the floor and find a bin, so you don't leave any evidence that you were there ruining the environment.
Great. And is that something that you've been doing since you've been back, James?
Definitely. Since I've been back in the UK, without even realising, I see rubbish on the floor and I just pick it up, and I walk like. And after I do it, I walk down the street a bit and I go, hold on. Then I realise where I got it from, and it's amazing to be able to learn that skill and carry it on afterwards.
Fantastic. And Ed, can you tell me what your favourite moment on expedition was, please?
Ooh, which one? I think my favourite moment on expedition, and certainly my most recent expedition to the Yukon, was sitting at the top of what we called High Camp, which was a camp which was at the confluence of two enormous rivers in the Yukon, and looking over huge, vast vista of mountains and boreal forest as far as the eye can see. And these moments are important because they are fundamentally moments of inspiration, and it's these inspired moments which really drive the ambitions and hopes of young people, and so the more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Alex.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you tell me a bit about your expedition team, please?
So I just want to start off by saying my expedition team were fantastic. Like, I couldn't have asked to be stranded with better people. They were great. They supported me through all of my challenges, even when I didn't ask for it, and even when I really didn't want the support, they were still there for me. And I think ultimately that is what makes good leadership, and that is what makes you, as a young explorer, want to follow them through the desert.
Literally.
Literally.
And Ed, finally.
Yes.
You keep coming back, Ed.
I do.
Why do you keep coming back?
I keep going back because you get something out of a British exploring expedition which you don't in many other walks of life, and that is a real depth of companionship and camaraderie which just does simply not exist unless you've really been on an expedition and really been cut off from everyone else. And people who have experienced that depth of friendship know how to develop it outside of an expedition environment as well, which is a hugely valuable skill. And to be kept reminded of how to do that every other year or so is really valuable for me. So I'll see you next year.
Great. Guys, thank you very much. A round of applause for our first panel.